sit in bound angle, so feet soles together and knees float out. Now if this is already a pretty big stretch for your inner thighs, you might want to take the feet farther away from the body, okay? So you can make all these little adjustments. And then I'm going to use my rolled mat and just place it here. So the first thing I do is I get up nice and tall so my spine is long, and then I got to try and take that length down with me. And then I'll have my head just a little bit higher on something. Now for some of us, the knees will float down a little farther than others. But if you can feel that the inner thighs and the hip flexors are a little tighter and maybe the knees are a little higher, you can also take your foam blocks and put them on the outsides of your thighs. And that really helps for all those inner leg muscles and hip muscles to relax. And the blocks have various heights, so if you need them even higher, you can turn them up. And that really helps, and it'll help release the low back. Now if you get there and you still feel this is not very comfortable for my low back, then you can take your blanket, lift your hips up off the floor and slide your blanket in under your pelvis so that the extension of your spine is less. Okay, so there's lots of little adjustments you can make to find comfort in this pose. And really the intention of this pose is that you are comfortable. This is not a pose that everything should be working really, really hard. We want the body to be able to soften, surrender, and release. And then if you haven't closed the eyes, you're going to let the eyes close. And you're going to start to connect to your breath. Just feeling the breath move through the body. Just starting to notice the quality of your breath. Becoming aware of where in the body the breath is moving. And even more so, maybe a little more acutely aware. Notice where the breath is moving freely and where the breath might feel a little sticky or restricted. And then we're going to start to connect an awareness to the pelvic floor muscles. So as always, same as each week we've practiced, we're going to focus on a voluntary pelvic floor release and engagement. So inhaling, the pelvic floor will soften and release as the diaphragm moves down. And exhaling, the diaphragm will move back up and the pelvic floor will very gently engage. couple more breaths here. Just focusing on the awareness of the pelvic floor and the breath. And maybe starting to lengthen the exhalation at this point. As that exhalation becomes a little bigger, feel the ribs expanding three-dimensionally. They're floating forward, they're floating backwards, but they're also expanding at the side body. This is the first time we've done this pose in this position, and it can be a little bit much for the inner thighs or the low back. So we'll start to come out of it, but you can certainly work up to holding it longer. So to come out, I would suggest just slowly bring the legs together, and then you can roll to your side. And we're just going to move the props away, and then we're going to come back to lie down on our mats, the full length of our mat. We'll actually take the arms overhead if that's comfortable. And if having them rest on the floor is too much for the shoulder, put your bolster behind you so that the forearms or elbows can come to your bolster. It'll be a more comfortable position for the arms. And we're just moving into a full body stretch. We did this one in the first couple weeks. So what we're going to do is, with the body in this position, we're going to inhale, and as we inhale, we lift and engage and stretch everything out, maybe even squeeze hands and squeeze the face. And then as we exhale, we let everything go soft and relax back onto the mat and perhaps the bolster. So inhale, stretch, 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 reach, point your toes. Imagine you've just eaten a lemon and you're squeezing your face up. And exhale, relax and soften, let the arms come to the floor or your prop. And we'll do that 3 more times with your own breath in your own time. See if you can find any muscles that aren't really reaching and stretching, and focus on them to join in. And when you're done, you can bring the arms back to the side body. We're going to bend our knees and plant our feet. We can have a strap nearby if we need it. We're going to do reclined pigeon or reclined figure 4. We've done this one a couple times in the previous weeks, but you may have forgotten whether or not you need the strap. So what we do in this one is we take the right ankle to the left thigh. Okay, and we're going to keep that foot flexed. And we're going to use the hip muscles to let that knee draw farther away from our waist. Okay, we don't want to push it with the hand. We just want to use our own muscles. And then we're going to take the left foot up off the ground. And this is where you might need the strap to wrap around the left thigh if you can't easily clasp around the back with your hands. So easily meaning your head and shoulders stay settled onto the floor. If you need to lift up the head and shoulders, you probably want to take the strap. Okay, and then we're just going to draw that leg in, trying to keep the sacrum down on the mat. and release it back to its starting position. So back and forth. And I'm probably going to exhale as I pull in, simply because I'm squishing the belly up a little bit. But if your intention is to really focus on the pelvic floor, then I would switch the breath and inhale as you pull in. A couple more times on this side. Try to keep the shin of the left foot at a right angle. Okay, and then we'll bring that left foot back to the floor. Uncross the legs. Come back to neutral. And just notice if there's any big shifts you need to make with the pelvis. If you do, if you need to even out the pelvis again, then we want to pay even more attention the next time we go in. So we'll take the left leg up. Just notice where the knee naturally falls. Okay, we don't need to draw it away from us if it's not a comfortable position, or if it changes the position of your pelvis. Okay, take the right foot up off the floor, find that right angle. So the sole of your foot is facing directly away from you. And then either clasping the back of the thigh or using the strap again. Just notice if your waist is still equally lengthened on both sides. And then you can start drawing in and floating out. One side of the breath with each side of the movement. Back and forth. Just trying to really get that thigh moving in the hip socket, but with a good level pelvis. Check in with both sides of your waist again. And one or two more times. Replace the foot and uncross the legs, and then we'll roll to our sides and come to kneeling. So we're going to do some foot mobility, tucking our toes under and coming to sit back. Now for some people, sitting back is too much, so we may need to tuck the toes and stay forward on hands and knees. You may need to have a bolster behind you. I think we've done this one once. So you really need to decide what the best position is, because you don't want to overstretch the feet. The feet are so delicate, and for most of us, our feet are really tight. And for some people, I'd even caution them to maybe take this up to standing and just do it this way, so that there's very little weight being put. Just depends on the tissue of your feet, if you've had plantar fasciitis. But we want to make contact, if it's available, with flexion into each toe. Sometimes the little toe ends up sort of just hanging in space. That's okay. It's slow progress to work through the feet again if they've become really quite tight. Just finding your position, and then come back to your breath, because you'll know you're a little too deep into this if it's catching your breath. Nice and easy. You can always do less where the feet are concerned. Pretty delicate. And then we'll come onto the tops of the feet. Again, for some people, this is the harder side. And this is a really good adjustment if the tops of the feet are a challenge. It goes right under the front of the ankle and just takes some of that. This is especially good if you're one of those people who, when they come back, there's actually space under. We want to support that space. And otherwise, you'll just come right onto. Just make sure the feet aren't really turned in. The toes like to turn in and the heels like to go out. Try to keep the feet fairly aligned. And then sometimes I press, when I'm on the tops, I press the toes down into my mat to keep my arches working. So probably a little bit of this for homework would be ideal for everyone. Feet are always a bit of a challenge. Being in shoes for so long. Okay, we're going to come up to kneeling, and what we're going to do, basically go from kneeling to half kneeling, okay? So all I'm going to do is bring my foot through, over and over again, switching sides. The trick of this is our body likes to come around, okay? These are little habits we've developed over time. Certainly different body structures make a difference too. But ideally, we want to kind of come through in this barrel, and then we want to come through as quietly as possible, rather than dragging. Remember that musical instrument, the wooden zipper? We want to try not to hear the zipper. So it's good work for many things. We're working on the hips, low back, but we're also working balance. Good. Really good. But it's really good awareness too. We can just learn a lot if we have to come around. A little harder for you guys that may have a blanket under you. Okay, we're going to slowly make our way up to standing. Now, we don't really know what we're going to need here. So we'll start with a few things. We'll start with our blocks. I might show on a chair as well. We'll have our blocks in front of our mat. And basically what we're going to do to start is just from strong legs, we're going to hip hinge over and bring the hands onto the blocks. And then we'll step forward with the left foot. And we'll step back with the right. Just deciding what the right height is for you. And then step both feet forward. And you're going to slowly hinge up. Good. So that's a challenging one, and it gets really quite deeply into the back of the legs. We're going to take our rolled mats, and you guys are going to actually head to the wall, and I'll stay here using the chair. Take your rolled mats to the wall, and we're just going to get into the backs of the legs a little bit. You can even use the pillar if you like. Going to get into the backs of the legs a little bit, just in a different way. So we're going to come into the exact same pose, only this time I'm going to have the front of my foot, the top of my foot, up onto the rolled mat. And then see how that changes my ability to hinge forward. Good. Just working to keep the spine really long and to be in a true hip hinge. So pushing the hips back a little bit versus more of a spinal rounding. And then hinge up a little bit. And we'll come up so we can change the position of our foot. Now we're going to put the heel up on the mat. This is why sometimes the flatter mat is a little bit better. A little less deep work. And same thing, just hinging forward. Might feel this a little bit more into the front, or even the top of the foot if you're able to get the toes down. Good. And then hinge up. And we'll switch sides. So now it's left foot forward, front of the foot up. And hinge forward. Long spine. Feel it right out through the crown of the head and right through the tailbone. And then hinging up slightly, changing the position of the foot, heel up. So you can use blocks, you can use a chair, you can use a wall, all kinds of different ways to modify. Excellent. One more breath there. Really good posture with the spine. Okay, and then we're going to come up. We can put the mats away for the moment and come back to our mat. Okay, so we've slowly been building and progressing poses. This one's a progression, but it takes quite a bit of movement. We're doing mobility, stability, strength, balance, all of it, okay? So I'll show you what we're doing, and then you can decide what your range of movement will be, okay? Because some people might go really low into a squat. Some people might just start with a little squat. But we're going to come down. When we come up, we're going to hug our leg up, down, up to the other leg. Okay, so we may have to, if balance is challenged, we may have to break it up into segments. Come down, come up, have a little pause, get set, and we're trying to pull that leg up as much as we can. Or we may be able to make it a little more fluid and keep things moving. So start small and see what your body is thinking. Okay, I'm going to inhale down and exhale up. Inhale down, pelvic floor softens. Exhale up. I find I have a little more support in balance when I exhale on that side. Back and forth. Slow and steady as you need to go. That's it. Slow it right down if you need to. It's core stability work and balance, so we can make it really slow. Mindful movement. That's okay, we can come to the wall too if we need to. Just slide down the wall and then use the wall for some help. You can also have a chair handy. of different ways to do it. A couple more. Good, really good, you guys. Take a break. So yeah, have a drink of water if you need it. Okay, last week we started to introduce sequencing a couple poses together. And so we did a pose and then we did that wide-legged pose in the middle. Do you remember that? So we're going to do that again, but our poses on either side are going to be a little bit different. So again, I'm going to show you. Sometimes it's easiest to have a vision of where we're going. It's called triangle pose, and it basically just looks like this, okay? There's different variations. Sometimes people come all the way down. We're not worried about that right now. Sometimes it's even best for some people to use a chair, and they can come into it. We would need chairs on both sides today, but they would come down like this. But we're just going to move not so deeply into it, okay? So we'll start facing the long side of our mat, and then we'll step the feet apart. And we're going to take our front leg, which for ease, we're going to all use the right leg. So we want the entire leg to revolve out to the end of our mat, and this leg stays that way, okay? Then we're going to take this right hip, and we're going to let it float way back in so that this gets really long, okay? This is going to try to stay open to the long side of our mat. And then my arm just comes down, maybe to my thigh, maybe to my knee, maybe a little lower, but not at the cost of this rounding. So I want to keep all this long, arm down, and then the top arm can stay at my back if I have any back issues, or it maybe will come up. It doesn't need to come all the way up because my other arm isn't all the way down. So just think of level shoulders. Good. So I'm looking forward over that leg that turned, right? And I can look right down at that foot, the right foot. And then I'm going to inhale, lift up, turn my foot, and as I exhale, I'm going to hinge forward into that. I might want blocks there. Or I might just come to here. Hands might come down, they might not. Don't get attached to any end position. Let the back of the neck be long. Come back to tabletop if I went below tabletop. Hands to the hips, strong legs will help protect my back on the way up. Okay, I can come in a little bit if I went wide. Now it's the left leg that turns all the way out. Left hip sachets in. Okay, this hip, if the hips are tighter, it may want to come around. That's okay, let it come around. Or it may stay a little more open. And then I'll reach out, bring my arm down, and that top arm can find whatever position it really likes. Excellent. A couple long breaths here. Ready to come out, it's going to be strong legs, and then inhale up, turn that left foot back in, and we'll just come for a little rest in this position again. Think long spine, and it's a hip hinge, so we're trying not to round through the spine. And slowly from strong legs, he'll start to come up. Good. Okay, and we're coming back to the floor for some of our plank work. So we've been changing our planks as we go along a little bit. We've started with forearms, with knees down, like this. Just knees back behind our hips so our core is still working. We've done knees up. We've done full plank with knees down and up. And I can't remember if we did any others last week. But those are the basics, okay? And so each week as we progress and we do some different ones, you're always welcome to stay at one of those if that's better for you. Always try to choose what serves you the best. Today what we're going to do, if it's available, the other thing we talked about, which you guys might have not heard, when you do the tuck of your fingers, tuck that bottom pinky under so you're on a nice even base and there's no pressure on more than one finger. Okay, today we're coming into our version of plank, and then we're going to lift a limb. So we're going to do a 3-limbed plank. Without lifting the hips up, we're really just going to stay in our solid plank. And it might even be an arm. Arms are a little harder than legs, so you might want to start with a leg. And you don't need to hold it really long. Just give it a try, give it a good honest effort. Keep the hips low. That's it. Good. Keep breathing though. Remember, the breath is like the key to your success here. Bring the shoulders forward a bit, Kathy. There you go. Good. Excellent. Good breath too. That's it. Really good, guys. Take a break. Give it one more try. You can try it in full plank too. I actually find it easier to lift a limb in full plank versus on my forearms.
I'm sorry, I can't do that on my back. Just one second.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I would just go back to one of those basic versions that we talked about, where the knees are on the ground. And we're just...
That's hard on the back.
Is it hard? On your low back?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could probably start learning it at the wall. So you're just going to come to the wall and then press away. And it doesn't feel like we're doing much, but you can still get all those muscles to engage.
Okay.
And you'll feel it once you will feel that you're still working. Can you feel it? Yeah. Yeah. And we'll just give it one more go of whichever version we're doing. Good. And then everyone can take a break. Keep breathing, Ken. And come down. Good effort, guys. Pretty much everything works in plank. So if you have no time in your day, a couple planks is really efficient. It's a really efficient way to get some overall body work. Okay, we're going to come to seated. Now we're going to do some bolster work. So we'll have some boat work. So we'll have the bolster behind us, just that little safety net. Now we've worked through a few variations of boat now. We've done it with the strap, okay? Where probably a lot of us still need to be there's still a lot of work happening when we're using the strap, and you can feel it in your bodies. So make sure your breath is going, and try to soften here. We do so much holding of this pose through the grip and through our jaw and through holding our breath. So just try and relax. Let go of how hard we think this pose is, and realize that we're just really picking our feet up off the floor. Good, excellent, you guys. Bring the feet down. Little release forward. I know it doesn't feel like we're just picking our feet up off the ground, but sometimes we have to get over those mind hurdles. Okay, last week we did the open and closes, right? Was that with you guys? Geez, now I've forgotten. It could have been one of my other groups. Didn't we do?
Yes, we did that.
Yeah, okay.
We attempted that.
I did it. Okay, so you can decide, okay? Maybe this is enough to just stay where we were a moment ago. That can be plenty. We can stay there. Maybe we'll just try without a strap. Maybe, you know, if you've been getting more used to this, we'll start to open up. That one's much trickier. That's what the bolster's there for. It'll get in the way a little bit if you're trying to really open and come up. You got to think about zippering those legs in. They don't have to touch, but it's the action of them moving in. Yeah, you also got to just have a sense of humor. There's a lot happening. There you go. That's it. Good for you. Excellent. Yeah. Good. Woo. And then rest for a moment, because it's a lot of work. That was awesome. That was probably the first time in a long time for movements like that, right? Yeah, for some of you. Good. Never hurts to challenge ourselves a little bit. Not.
I do it in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
That's a whole different world.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe place though to do that type of work. That's good. That's good. Okay. Gonna start to wind it down a little bit. So we're coming down and we're gonna work through bridge pose. So that's the one where we lift up and then we slowly come down one vertebrae at a time. Have the tailbone touch last. And then we'll go up again, up as I exhale, and down as I inhale. And again, I'm switching that breath on purpose, just for a little bit more core and pelvic stability. You can separate the feet a bit. You want to have a bit of a wider base for your feet, just so you're a little more stable. And then I want you to imagine that you have that same zippering action through the inner thighs. They're not going to touch, but they're going to be actively working towards each other. Easy lift on exhalation, and an easy, soft, quiet lowering on the inhalation. That's it. Good. Little lifts if you're feeling it in the back at all. Just little lifts, let the back feel protected. You definitely want to exhale as you lift if you're feeling anything, or even if you're just cautious about the back, let the exhalation protect. One or two more if you're still going. If you're not, just feel free to relax with the back down. body to rest. Some head support if you need it. We're just moving into knee hugs. So again, if there's back issues, I would always take the legs up one at a time. Probably just a good idea anyways to protect the back. One leg up, then the other. And then we're slowly gonna draw the knees in and float them away. And this is where intention becomes important again. It's probably more natural to exhale as you pull them in. But if you're really focused on pelvic floor work, then you might inhale, let the pelvic floor release in this more natural position for that. And exhale, float them away. Totally up to you based on your intention. And then you can stretch one leg out and then the other leg. Grab a bolster if you want a bolster under your legs. So yeah, I would take your blanket for your head. Your back's going to definitely want the bolster. There you go. Yep. Coming into a restful position for Shavasana. Make any little adjustments you might need to so the body is really comfortable. And then try to find stillness. Your awareness down to the soles of the feet. And just feel the soles of the feet soften. Tops of the feet and toes following suit. Feel both legs, right leg and left leg, both relax heavily into your bolster or your mat. Feel the pelvis settle deeply. Almost like it's released a little bit away from the torso. Feel the breath barely moving at the base of the belly. The floating action of the front ribs. The chest feel open and the heart soft. shoulders relax heavily back onto your mat. And let the upper back soften. Let the shoulder blades relax. Allow everything in the upper back to let go. Feel the back ribs floating gently. Feel or imagine a sense of ease through the low back. Every time you exhale, the low back softens. Let both arms relax. The right arm and the left arm. Completely released. Hands softening. Imagine a sense of relaxed resilience through the neck and throat. So you feel the stability of the neck, but everything is soft. And the lower hinge of the jaw releases like a hammock. Cheeks soften. Become just barely aware of the breath moving through the nostrils, really gently. The eyes releasing back. Imagine the skin of the forehead smoothing out, softening all the way to both temples. The whole body relaxing. Feel the whole body relax. toes and fingers. Maybe turning ankles and wrists. And then the rest of the movement is really up to you. You can hug in or you can stretch out, whatever feels best for you. Try to keep the eyes closed. We're going to make our way back up to a seated position, probably on a block or a bolster. Find a seated position that's comfortable for you. Sitting up nice and tall, if the eyes have opened, just let them softly close again. And we're just going to work through another awareness scan, this time while still using the body as an anchor. We've gone through a few weeks using the breath, now we're using the body. Just try to connect to your whole body for a moment. Right from the feet up to the crown of the head, become aware of the whole body. And then let that awareness gently move through the body. We'll start settling in at the toes, the soles of the feet, heels, tops of the feet, the ankles, lower legs, knees, upper legs, the whole bowl of the pelvis, the front of the torso, back of the torso. Become aware of that strong, erect spine. Both shoulders, upper arms, elbows, lower arms, palms of both hands, thumbs and fingers, backs of the hands, the neck and the throat, the entire front of the face, the back of the skull, and the crown of the head. And then become gently aware of the parts of the body that are touching the ground or the mat, or any props. Just quickly connecting to those body parts and moving on, becoming aware of the body parts that are touching other body parts. And the body parts that aren't touching anything, just in air. imagine the lower body as an anchor, fully supporting you, particularly the pelvis and the legs. And the upper body able to rise up out of that support. And see if you can connect to the body as a whole again. Feel into the whole body. Whole body. If you have glasses on, you can just quietly remove them. We'll finish with a round of eye palming again. Take the hands together and just start to rub them together, creating some warmth. Not a bad idea for a day like today. Let lots of friction and energy be created as you rub the hands together. And then you're gently cupping one palm over each eye without any pressing. That energy diffuse deeply into each eye socket. And then we'll slowly bring the hands back to the heart. Take one more full breath. And let the eyes peel open. And namaste. Namaste. Great.